Let me click on the start recording button so we make sure we have a nice recording of this. All of attendees today, as a matter of fact, anybody who has even signed up to be able to uh, come in and interact with us about our adaptive streaming technology. You'll get a copy of the recorded webinar, a link actually to it tomorrow in an email, but so will all the other people who do not get the benefit of being able to interact with us if need be, right? What I like about these webinar series is that that's a tough word, that we've been rolling out now. We're sort of ramping up a lot of these, trying to make sure that people understand all of the features and functions and technologies that are involved in all levels of our system, whether that be edge products or analytics or the VMS that we're about to talk about here, or thermal. We have the end-to-end solution. So again, this is part of our FLIR Technologies series where we will be producing many, many more of these as we go forward, and we're trying to schedule them on a semi-regular basis so you guys do have access to this knowledge that we want to make sure everybody has. So with that said, again, my name, I see more people coming in now, my name is Marty Major, and I am with FLIR's TCX Training Department. I actually do a lot of road shows or road classes certification for Latitude systems, and adaptive streaming is one of those technologies that was introduced not too long ago, a few adaptations of the software ago, that I really think is powerful, and once you understand it, if you don't already, I think you'll see the power of the system itself, or the power of the adaptability of the system to optimize streaming for our customers, save them money, save them bandwidth, and we'll talk about those things as we go forward. So just to move forward again, I know the date on this slide here shows 5/17. Maybe some of you guys, it's actually the 18th at this point, but this is our second webinar of today. We want to make sure we are a global company, and so we want to be able to provide these services on a global basis. So here we are. So let's go forward and take a look at the next slide, and we're going to start off with the webinar agenda. One thing before I get into this slide here, on the software that's on the right-hand side of your screen, you should see a questions section. Now, normally, in some of the 11 a.m. Eastern time here in the United States where I'm at, webinars are a little bit bigger. This one is slightly smaller, so actually tonight I usually would have a number 2 watching the question queue, manning those just to make sure that either I covered them or we would break every few minutes or so just to make sure that all questions were being answered based on the content we're delivering. But it looks like it's going to be just me tonight. We have a smaller crew, not too small, but small enough where I think, and because the webinar that we're covering today is going to be quick and to the point, right? This is a technology that's been out for a little while. We just want to make sure that all of our VAR partners and our customers understand exactly what this does and what the benefits are of using adaptive streaming. So go ahead and fire in the questions, and we will break every once in a while just to make sure the concepts are being understood. So if you look down at the bottom here, and again, this is the webinar agenda slide, but I'm going to start at the bottom, right, because we're going to end up with a live control center demo. I've already got it staged up. We're going to be able to see this technology actually working with our own eyes. We can do that with some on-screen display functionality that I've added to my streams. And as we go in reverse here, again, we're here to talk about adaptive streaming, so we will do that. We'll explain exactly its benefits, the things that you need to be aware of, when it can be used and when it maybe shouldn't be used. But we're going in reverse because adaptive streaming itself is based on a technology, and for you detectives out there, you've probably guessed it, it is multi-streaming or simultaneous multi-stream encoding. This is really the underpinning technology that our adaptive streaming uses, and we just optimize it better than some other folks do. So that's what we want to talk about today. So let's go ahead and go forward and start talking about multi-streaming. We don't have that many slides. We really want to get to the live demonstration to show how it works, but we do need to explain some of those, the functionality itself so we understand it, and then we'll see it, and then all will be well, and we'll move on our day. So we first need to talk about what is multi-stream encoding. What is simultaneous multi-stream encoding? Basically, as you see by this little box that's just popped up right here, it's a simple concept. It's even in the name of the technology itself, multi-stream, more than one stream, encoding, right? It's pretty easy to see. But if you look in the box, it sort of defines a little bit further. It's basically the ability of the video management system, or Latitude, to be able to simultaneously encode the available streams coming from the camera. Now, I say that because it's important that the camera has the ability to multi-stream out as well. And now most modern day cameras have that ability to do so. So what we're doing is as digital signal processors increase and then we can actually do more things, we're able to add even more additional streams. So multi-stream encoding, so it's a good concept, right? People understand it. It's how they implement it in their video management system that we want to talk about how ours kind of differs from some of the others. It makes it a little bit better. So basically that's it. The camera's got to be able to do it, and the VMS then has to be able to take those available streams that the camera can send us and utilize the ones that we need for various purposes. And we'll talk about that as we go forward. So if you look on the next stream, what is multi-stream? I think it's pretty straightforward, but why do we need to use it, right? That's what I think is the sort of beginning that we need to talk about. And then we can then talk about the benefits because, why should we use it? Why can't I just have one stream and send it to my live people viewing, send it across remote connections, send it to my recording? Why does it matter? Why should I use more than one stream if I have that capability? Why are cameras now able to send more streams? They wouldn't do that if it didn't have some benefits. So we're going to talk about that. And the three primary benefits then to be able to, when you utilize multi-streaming, number one, is sort of a clunky sentence, but if you read it along with me, it decreases the client machine, the control center machine, the system resource utilization, right? It does not require the device, the PC itself, to decode as much information. And we'll see this visually in the next couple slides what I'm talking about, but that's a big key one right there. It's going to save your system resources and, hence, it's going to extend the life of those system resources as well. They're going to last longer, but they don't have to work so hard, just like anything. The next one, of course, is going to decrease the bandwidth utilization for live viewing. There's no need to be sending full resolution streams to every pane in my layout and control center if those panes are very small, right? The human eye, well, first of all, what is displaying in that little area, there's not enough pixel density in there in the monitor itself, in the overall monitor, to be able to display, a 4K stream or something to a small pane. So by dynamically being able to teach the system or let the system decide what is the best stream to send to these individual panes. And that's really what we're talking about here. But multi-stream encoding simply says it can do it, right? It will decrease it if you use it. And again, we're going to go into talking when we get into the adaptive streaming part, how this is actually employed. Multi-streaming can really make a difference or not. So if you see the third one, it's sort of a rider on the second one, right? It decreases the bandwidth utilization just like this one does, but for remote viewing. If I have more streams to choose from, say I have a 4K camera, our 4K cameras can quad multi-stream. They can send actually 4 separate streams based on some clarifiers that we'll talk about in the next slide. But if they can send me 4 streams, a 4K stream, a 1080p stream, a 720p stream, and a 480p stream or a D1 stream, and I'm going to send it across possibly low bandwidth connections or to a device that's going to have a smaller screen, real estate, it's maybe an iPad or an iPhone or some sort of tablet device, I can choose the smaller stream then to send across for that. So again, it's going to, I probably couldn't even send a big 4K stream across remote viewing if there weren't some of the things in place that could help me do that. So we want to take away some of these pain basically caused by the size of the files and reduce them down to send them that would be the best fit for the receiving screens, basically. So let's take a look visually then about what I'm talking about here. Now, multi-stream encoding, you can see I have 3 different monitors here, and let's assume they're all 4K monitors. And on the left-hand side, we've got a 1x1 screen. It's very easy to see. It is a 4K monitor, so it can display a 4K stream. So live viewing, if that's what I wanted to, that's probably what I would do. That's why I bought my 4K cameras and my 4K monitors, so I could get all those pixels, that resolution, that really fine detail from pixel density. But if you look down at the screen that's down towards the middle, on the bottom, this is a quad view. Again, I got my 4K monitor, but if I'm putting in 4 separate streams right here, where you can see represented by all these 4 individual 720 streams, this pane itself, the real estate that this takes up in my 4K screen, is small enough that sending a 4K stream to this pane would give me no visual benefit, right? If I set a 720p stream here and I sent a 4K stream here and looked at them side by side, I would visually see no difference because the amount of pixels that's across this area is far less than the total of the the width of the 4K camera. Therefore, it can't even display it anyway. It's a waste of resources. It's a waste of bandwidth to send it there. And on top of that, or secondarily, one of the benefits that we talked about, or like this is the opposite of the benefit, right? If you actually send a 4K streams to each and every one of these panes, you can understand what that takes to render it, right? It's got to decode each individual 4K stream, and you're getting no visual benefit, so it's doubly wasting. Two main things that this avoids by dynamically being able to multi-stream encode, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Now, lots of companies use multi-stream encoding. As I mentioned, as digital signal processors got better, they were able to do this, right? And so all cameras have moved to the higher end DSPs, and now everybody's introducing multi-stream encoding because they see the two benefits that I just talked about, or the two pain points basically that we used to have with individual stream encoding. And sending it to all of our devices at that level. And that's the next screen that we're going to talk about here. Without multi-stream encoding, as I was mentioning, each individual pane, all of that bandwidth is being sent to each individual pane. Now keep in mind, a control center monitor could have, or a control center machine can display up to 4 monitors, right? What if you had 4 different monitors? You could have so many different streams all sending to this device. It could overload the control center machine simply by sheer size of data that it's trying to encode, and it just can't keep up with it. The CPU will go through the roof, right? So keep that in mind. I mean, there's a huge, huge benefit by being able to use multi-streaming. And we're going to talk next about the benefit of having something that can actually do it by itself without you having to set those up. Oops, let me go back one screen here. Because you could go in on some of the other VMS systems that are out there in the wild and set individual streams. Let me go back a slide here to what you wanted here. But without the ability to dynamically do this, which is what you're going to talk about here in a few minutes about what our adaptive streaming does, it presents you with a lot of work, right? You actually have to go into each one of these layouts that you create. We're actually going to see this very same layout when we go to our live view. You'll see the D1 streams in the smaller boxes, and then the 1080p stream. As soon as we move a D1 stream into this box, because there's more real estate, the system pauses for a second. It recognizes, hey, this is a bigger screen. Let me send you a higher resolution stream that better fits what you're trying to look at in the pane that you're looking at. So again, I went back a little bit here. Let's go back forward. This is our, let me move our GoToWebinar software out of my way. This is our sort of way that we do it. As we've talked about, we can certainly multi-stream. And as you look down here in the chart on the bottom, which we'll get to in just a second, our 4K cameras can actually quad stream, as I mentioned before. Each one of the encoded streams can be used for different purposes. And I have some examples down at the bottom right. Say you got a budget allotment and you have X number of dollars and you said, man, I've seen these FLIR 4K cameras, I got to get me some of those. So you spend all your money on the 4K cameras. But what you didn't realize, or maybe you didn't plan ahead, you were so excited about getting yourself some new 4K cameras from FLIR that you forgot that these are bigger file sizes then, right? More pixels, a lot more pixel density, so the file sizes will increase. And if you don't appropriately increase your storage allotment, you're then going to shrink the amount of days that you used to have down to something, based on these file sizes. So there is a way, and my examples down here, because I bought these 4K cameras, I want my live guards to be able to see all those details, be able to zoom in on different screens and be able to pick up all those details. Maybe it started to pixelate before it with their 1080. Previous cameras did this. So they love being able to see better things and see more things with the high resolution in wide open areas, right? I mean, that's generally what the intended purpose for these big 4K cameras is. So, and again, I did a lot for storage maybe in this scenario that I'm rolling out to you. So I'm going to keep my 1080p streams for my recording because that's all I have, right? Until I get another budget allotment and I can then beef up my storage, maybe then I'll stream my 4K streams to recording and actually be able to retain all that valuable data. And then finally, as I mentioned before, we've got our D1 stream down here for remote viewing. If we are at least at 16 to 25 frames a second, we do have the dual streams, which allows us to send a D1 stream for remote viewing. So let's go ahead and take a look at this chart over here. And you'll see this actually shows our 4K cameras, the top 3 lines, and then our quad HD cameras, which are our 1440p cameras, still higher resolution than our 1080ps. that we have two different models of. But let's look up here at the 4K camera, and you can see if I use my highest frame rate, and this is really the important category right here. As DSPs increase their capabilities, these frame rates that limit some of the individual streams that we're actually able to use will start dropping as well, right? Pretty soon, I imagine the DSPs will get to the certain point where at full frame rate, at 30 frames per second, we will have the ability to stream all four. But right now we are limited, and you can see by this chart, and we're limited simply by the technology itself. I'm glad we've got it, but we have to understand what these limitations are and not expect more than what it can deliver. So right here, you'll notice if I drop my frame rate down anywhere below 26, 16 to 25, I then am able to grasp or use two different streams. The camera will send me both of them, and the VMS will encode it. Latitude says, oh, okay, we're at this frame rate, we now have this capability. But if I drop it down to 15 frames per second, then it really opens it up. Our choice is magnified. Right now, I have access to all four of these streams. Depending on the pane size in my view, the system with with adaptive streaming turned on automatically sends the correct stream. So there's sort of a coupling of different things that we need to understand to be able to utilize these streams. And let's look at the Quad HD real quick. Same concept, except slightly different, right? We don't have quad multi-streaming capabilities. That's unique at the moment to our 4K camera. I'm sure this will change. But our Quad HD, our next level of resolution, you can see at the higher frame rates, I'm also limited to that high frame rate stream. But if I drop it down the same here, I have two streams. And if I drop it down to 15, the Quad HD cameras actually provide three streams: the Quad HD 1440, the 720, and the D1 480p. So I think you can understand the benefit of multi-stream encoding, or the ability to be able to grab a hold of those extra streams the cameras can provide. And now we need to talk about how we utilize multi-streaming in a very smart manner. And basically that's what it is. It is multi-stream encoding done in a smart way, right? Dynamically, and that's what you're going to see. So what is adaptive streaming? You can see the big red words right there. I precluded to it already. That's really the important part. This is multi-stream technology being done dynamically by the system. The system looks at the size of the pane, sees how much real estate is there, and determines based on its available streams from the camera, based on the frame rates we talked about, which one is the best one for that image or for that pane right here. And again, you're going to see in the live demo this very same setup right here. I'm going to put the cameras down here. I'm going to move them up here, and you're going to see it automatically change when adaptive streaming is turned on. We'll also see how maybe I have something here I need to keep my eye on, so I need that one, but I do need to look at this camera, which is in a D1 area, and maybe for whatever reason I'm a guard and I'm locked down to this view. What I can start doing then is possibly zoom in on this D1 stream, which is currently showing me, and as I start to zoom in, as we all know, if you're limited to one resolution, you will start to pixelate when you get a certain distance away from the camera as you zoom in or zoom out basically to it, or not, because it's zoom in still. But what adaptive streaming allows you to do is, even in these small panes, these D1 areas, if I use one of the three functions we have to digitally zoom in, it will automatically, again, reach out and grab the additional pixels. And you can see with our on-screen display and our live demo coming up, it automatically doing this, right? That's why we show the live demo, so you can see it done. But the concept is straightforward, and that's why generally there probably shouldn't be a lot of questions, but I would love to be able to answer any that you might have. As you can see here again, just to reinforce the fact that if you don't have adaptive streaming or manually set up excuse me, multi-code encoding, you're stuck with a serious waste of resources on two different levels, right? Too much bandwidth being sent to each and every one of these panes for no reason, no visual benefit whatsoever. And this system now is just crushed with the load now of having to decode the full 4K streams at all of the panes that it's showing up in. So it's an important and a very effective tool to kind of keep you out of trouble, right? It automatically determines which is best for you, and it serves up the best stream. And that is pretty much it. What I'll do now is I'll pause, and I'll step over here to the question queue and see if we have any questions. Hold on tight. I have a question here. It says, does adaptive streaming work with all cameras? Now, all cameras, it needs to be clarified, right? All DVTEL FLIR cameras, it does, certainly. All other brands of cameras, it does not, and we'll see that in the demo coming up. So that's important. Good question to clarify things. So Keep them coming if you've got them. Again, the webinar I did this morning, very few questions because it's very straightforward, right? So what we're going to do, I'm going to keep the question queue open. We're going to step back to it if need be. But I think what we should do then, whoops, there's Admin Center. Well, actually, Admin Center, what you can see over here is I have 4 cameras currently being recorded, as you can see up here on our interactive dashboard in Admin Center. And you can see all of the different streams that I'm actually using. And I've even labeled them by name so it's easy to understand what's being sent over there. I have my aerial camera sending at 30 frames per second, high frame rate. Now one thing I didn't mention about that chart we saw for the Quad HD and the 4K cameras. There's a similar grid, and I'll show you here sort of visually what the limitations are to 1080p cameras. Now, as you can see down at the bottom pane, I've set up this, I guess it's not exactly the same as what we're looking at, but you can see right here down in the bottom. Now, first of all, I think it would be wise to sort of show you in tools and options exactly where this function is so you can turn it on, turn it off if you like. So if we go into tools and options, and then we simply come down to video and go right to the general tab, you'll notice I have my maintained aspect ratio unchecked, so it fills up my screen, right? That's a new thing that happened in 6.4, but I like it visually better when I'm presenting, so I unchecked that. If I didn't, it would just keep it in the aspect ratio, and I'd have my black areas around it. But you can see right here, this is where adaptive streaming comes from. You can literally turn it off if you don't like it. I don't know why you wouldn't like it, but we give people options, and that's what's great about our software. So this is where you could turn it off for the system as a whole, right, for Control Center, or I'm going to show you another way where you can individually turn it off for some of those panes. And I don't know too many other VMSs that can do that. They have, multi-stream capabilities. They even have, a sort of smart function, kind of like we're using it, but they don't give you the option of being able to turn it on, turn it off at your leisure based on individual cameras. So I'm going to just say okay to that. The on-screen display, I basically turn it on. I guess I should have showed it in here, but that's for another webinar. I've turned on the video settings for on-screen display so you can actually see the individual panes that I've got here. And I can see on my left-hand side here, if I hover up a little bit, it'll actually tell me that's my Quasar camera, and it is currently at a D1 pane, although you saw on the Admin Center that it's actually being encoded or recorded at the full HD 1080p. So what's going to happen is, again, just to demonstrate what we were talking about, I'm going to take this pane and either throw it into the larger pane and check it out. It paused for a second, and now you can see it's rendering, and it's telling you that the resolution is now changed dynamically because I put it into a pane that can actually utilize those pixels. So it's going to reach back out to those available streams, and it's going to give me those pixels for this camera. And the same thing happens down here. I'm just going to move it back out of the way. Same thing happens. I believe this is my aerial camera, our new Quasar second generation. You can see the difference in some of the low light settings and the WDR settings from an older, like 5-year-old Quasar to the newer aerial cameras. Much better improvement. Again, real big improvements in the digital signal processing that everybody's using. This also allows us to give multiple streams or more streams simultaneously than we were able to before. But this is basically it, right? I mean, this is, if I move my screen around, like say I was using a different layout, for instance, and I came over here, maybe the postage stamp layout. Now, that one thing I was saying about the chart, about that that we showed for the 4K and the Quad HD, all of my cameras are 1080p max. I don't have a 4K camera. I actually had one during the beta testing, and I really wanted to keep it, but they made me send it back once we got through the testing and stuff. So our 1080p cameras are actually limited to 2 different streams, and they'll, as you saw, they'll go back and forth between the D1 stream and the 1080p stream, which is their max resolution. It never takes you to the 720p stream, which this is not, right? Sometimes in class guys mess this up. The P indicator is always the second number in our resolution. So this is actually a 480p camera right here. And again, there's not enough real estate to even display it at 1080p. The 4K cameras that give us all 4 of those individual streams from 4K all the way down to D1, you can actually progress right through them. Like here's my 720, or excuse me, my 480p camera. If I were to start to zoom in, and I'll depress my mouse and do that, keep an eye on the resolution. As I start to zoom in, I get to a certain point where I would start to pixelate normally, but it's going to say, wait, I can't allow that. Here's more pixels, right? And so it automatically jumps to the higher resolution, and you can see I can continue without pixelating. But still is a 1080p. The 4K camera jumps through all 4 of them, right? It goes from the D1 to the 720 to the 1080p to the 4K. You could zoom in and look at some dirt on the back of a beetle on one of these leaves, right? I mean, it really has that much resolution in comparison even to a 1080p camera, but especially a D1 camera. So that's it, folks. Again, I promised this would not be long. We're sitting at 27 minutes after the hour, and we did have about a minute pause in the beginning as we let people come strolling in. But I do want to open it up. I'll go ahead and reach back out to the right-hand side, see if we have any questions. Ooh, I think we do. Hold on a second. I think we got another one. Let's see. Hold on one second. Good question. The question is, does adaptive streaming work for recording or just live? It doesn't. Has nothing to do with recording at all, right? Recording is determined by Admin Center, whatever you set it at. This is strictly to alleviate those two things that we talked about: live bandwidth that's being sent to live viewers. So clearly, the more live viewing people you have, command centers, large organizations, which we have many of, they are the ones that hugely benefit from this. Why? Because they have a lot of live viewing people. So if you don't have anybody ever viewing live, what are the greatness of the benefits? Probably reduced, right? I mean, still, when you log in, you're not wasting bandwidth, but it really comes into play when you have many, many live viewers, and the more you have, the more this really, really helps. So good question. I like that one too. Shows that people are paying attention. That's what we like to see. All right. With that said, the final thing that I want to leave you with then, oops, that is not the right browser. Chrome is my preferred browser. I want to show you, since the buyout of DVTEL by FLIR, it's a much larger organization, right? FLIR is. The security division is small in comparison to some of the other divisions in the company. So I do want to point out, especially to those guys in the webinar, and keep in mind we're recording this too, so anybody seeing this after the fact can easily, in case you find it difficult to actually find what you're looking for in the security part, I just wanted to show how easy it is to get there. So FLIR.com is the main site, and then you have to come to products and go to security. I've actually got the security site here. As you can see, it announces the acquisition of us. We are the last sort of fit into the end-to-end solution that FLIR has put together, and it announced it still is up there. That'll probably go away eventually, and we'll just be all one big happy family with nothing showing from our previous lives. So anyway, we're on the FLIR security site. I want to come over to support and training. So FLIR.com, products, security, and then once you're at the security site, you can have a partner portal, another big thing. I'm not going to talk about it here too much other than to point out, if you are a VAR of ours, you need to have access to this portal. Click on it, log. It'll ask you, to request access to the partner portal, but it's got a lot of really good information in here. I just wanted to point that out. I see it, and I love the fact that it's right there. So support, training, will take you to well, actually it shows some webinars that we've got, at least today's webinars that are showing up. We do have plenty of other webinars. We'll see these in a second. But you can notice the two main divisions here are the in-person training, Latitude certification classes that Chris and I give around the country and the world. Basically, Chris is the world traveler. I get to do the U.S. for the most part. But we do have also Tom Hoffman, who is our thermal training expert in the security division, and he's been doing this for a number of years. So now we're one big happy family. We're all sort of cross-training into different things. Tom was on my earlier webinar today, being my number 2. He's already brushed up a lot on the Latitude part. I need to brush up a lot more on my thermal. But notice right here is the online training. This is what I want to point you to, which includes some of the webinars, as you can see right here listed. Now, keep in mind, we've just been talking to the web people, finalizing some of the wording for the new webinars that are about to appear. There's at least 15 or 20, I think, that are in the list that are coming up shortly. So look back here in the next couple of days and keep an eye out. We will be displaying tons more. So any of the technology, any of the things about our software or our products that you had any questions about, you can pick and choose the ones that you want to register for. Now also keep in mind one other thing. As you can see right here, these are recorded webinars that we've already done some of these. Just by registering for the webinars, what we want you to do, because if you can't make it, no worries. The very next day, you're going to get an email. Just like tomorrow, you're going to get an email because you listened to this webinar and you registered. So we want to be able to work around your time periods. We try to be flexible, right? We did the 2 different webinars today for this, and that's kind of our style. Make sure we cover the global area. Anybody that wants to interact, give us the good questions that we've gotten in this webinar. But we want to be able to offer what our customers and our VAR partners tell us that they need. And that's one of the, leads me to the next segue. We have a lot of videos, which we're going to check out here in just a second. We do webinars on various topics. What we really want feedback from you folks out in the field. What is it that's causing you pain? What is it that you need possibly more information on? Maybe you come here and you're like, I wish you had a webinar on this, or I was hoping for a training video on this other topic. Whatever it is, we want to be able to provide you what you folks need. So you got to tell us, right? And just briefly, I'll talk about it more at the very end. But my email address is my name at FLIR.com, right? My name is Marty Major. That's MartyMajor. So it's marty.major@FLIR.com. Send me an email. The more emails I got about various topics, the faster it gets to the top of the list, and then we start producing the content that you guys are looking for. Finally, then, is the online training video library. If I click on Latitude, which is where which we're talking about today, basically. Now, keep in mind, we're still in transition phase. We're literally still moving things over from the old domain. Here, as you can see, we have some videos, good ones, as a matter of fact. Here's an adaptive streaming video, as a matter of fact. And Chris actually has the 4K cameras. He's my boss, long-time DVTel, now FLIR trainer. So you can actually see him using the 4K one in this video if you were to find it. And again, FLIR.com. Looking for products and then security, and then here support training brings us to this glorious page that keeps increasing with information and stuff that our customers have been asking us for. So anyway, keep in mind, we've got a lot of stuff coming in our roadmap going forward. We want to hear from you folks and sort of steer us in the right direction, right? Make sure we're actually producing things that are of value to folks. I don't want to, spend a couple of days creating something that nobody cares about, right? Nobody wants to do that. So let us know. Again, marty.major@FLIR.com, or even training@FLIR.com will reach the appropriate people, including myself. So with that said, I'll take one final look at the webinar question queue, and as I'm only a couple of minutes over, and again, we did start a few minutes late, so it doesn't look like we're going too far. Looks like that's good. So again, thanks for coming. I hope you do look forward to some of our future webinars that you can register for, anything that you're looking for information on, and our training videos. Now keep in mind, there's only 9 or 10 showing there. We're going to segment these better so it's easy to find what you're looking for. For instance, the two most obvious ones, admin center column and a control center column. You're going to know when you come to the site, you're going to look for information, you want to be able to find it quick. Also, what I was actually leading up to before is I've got at least this many videos in the bank, right? We've got them. They were about to be published on our old DVTel domain. We wanted to hold off, so we're getting ready to put up these up here as well. There's going to be a lot more training videos for you guys to use. So again, with that said, thanks for coming. I hope to see you on some of the future webinars, and please utilize the databases that we've got here and let us know if we're missing anything that you do need. So again, thanks for coming, and I will see you next time. Thanks.